Help me reach 1,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. I didn't wake up that morning expecting my life to split cleanly down the middle. It was just another weekday. The kind where nothing feels urgent, nothing feels wrong. I made coffee, skimmed emails, and waited for Elizabeth to come downstairs. She didn't. That wasn't unusual. Lately, our schedules barely overlapped. We lived in the same house, but our days ran parallel, rarely touching. I'm James, 42, married to Elizabeth for 11 years. Or at least I was trying to be. I believed marriage wasn't about constant excitement. It was about showing up, paying attention, choosing the same person even when things got quiet. I thought quiet was normal. I didn't know quiet could hide something loud underneath. Elizabeth used to talk a lot about work, friends, random things she saw online. Over the past year, those conversations faded. She was always tired, always busy, always halfway somewhere else. Her phone became an extension of her hand. She smiled at it more than she smiled at me. I noticed. I just didn't confront it. Part of me didn't want to be the suspicious husband, the insecure one. That morning, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't even curious at first. I glanced because the screen lit up. A name popped up I didn't recognize. One word followed by a heart emoji. Then another message came in. And another. I stared longer than I should have. Long enough for the rational excuses to fall apart. Long enough for my chest to tighten. I picked up the phone. It unlocked immediately. No password. Like she wasn't worried. Like she never thought I'd look. What I saw wasn't graphic. It didn't need to be. Familiar jokes. Late night references. Last night was perfect. A photo she'd never sent me. It was enough. Enough to confirm what my instincts had been whispering for months. I put the phone back exactly where it was. Finished my coffee. Sat down. I didn't feel angry. I felt hollow. Like something essential had drained out of me without making a sound. When Elizabeth came downstairs, wrapped in a towel, humming to herself, she kissed my cheek. It was automatic. Habit. I looked at her and wondered how long she'd been doing this. How long she'd been living two versions of her life, while I stayed loyal to one. I didn't argue. I didn't accuse. I went upstairs and pulled out a suitcase. She followed me, confused, asking what I was doing. I kept folding clothes. Shirts, jeans, the basics. My hands were steady, even though my head was loud. If you've ever watched someone slowly drift away and question your own instincts, tap like right now, so this story can reach the people who need it. James, what is this? She asked. I'm leaving, I said. Simple, honest, final. She laughed, actually laughed like I was joking. You're being dramatic. That word hit harder than anything else. Dramatic, as if packing your life into a suitcase was performance. I zipped the bag and carried it downstairs. She followed me, voice rising, asking questions she already knew the answers to. I reached the door, set the suitcase down, and finally looked at her. I saw the messages. I said. Her face changed. Not shock, not guilt, calculation. She crossed her arms and stared at me like I'd inconvenienced her. So, she said, are you really going to throw everything away over that? That was the moment I understood something important. She didn't see this as a betrayal. She saw it as an inconvenience, a disruption to her comfort. Comment below. At this point, would you have left quietly like James or confronted her harder? I picked up the suitcase again. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I just walked toward the door. That's when she finally reacted. Not with tears. Not with apologies. With anger. She followed me onto the porch. Her voice echoed down the street. She accused me of overreacting, of being cold, of not fighting for us. I opened the trunk of my car and placed the suitcase inside. Then she yelled something that stopped me mid-motion. Something sharp. Something revealing. Something that told me exactly who she was and what she thought of me. Before we get to what she said, Type one word in the comments that best describes what you think she's about to reveal. I turned around slowly, the weight of that sentence settling in my chest. Her eyes weren't pleading. They were defiant, like she'd already decided I was a villain in her story. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about an affair. It was about respect, or the complete absence of it. If this moment already feels heavy, consider sharing this story with someone who understands what emotional betrayal really looks like. What did you expect? Elizabeth shouted. You were never enough for me. The words landed without drama, without heat. Just flat, casual, like she was stating a fact she'd been holding back for years. Not angry, not emotional. Certain. I stood there, one hand on the trunk, listening as if she were talking about someone else. Enough. That was the word. Not exciting enough. Not attentive enough. Not ambitious enough. The irony was sharp. I had built my life around being dependable, around being present, around being solid. And now, in her version of the story, that steadiness was a flaw. I didn't respond. Silence seemed more honest than any defense I could give. That annoyed her. She stepped closer, lowering her voice, like this was a private truth she was finally brave enough to say out loud. He makes me feel alive, she added. Something you stopped doing a long time ago. That was it. Not because it hurt more, but because it explained everything. The distance, the phone, the smiles I hadn't seen in months. She didn't drift away. She replaced me emotionally long before she replaced me physically. I closed the trunk. The sound echoed down the quiet street. Neighbors probably heard. I didn't care. I looked at her one last time. 11 years, condensed into a single moment of clarity. I hope it's worth it, I said, not as a threat, not as sarcasm, just a statement. She scoffed. It already is. I got into the car and drove away. No music, no destination planned, just movement. The further I got from the house, the lighter my chest felt. Not relief, not happiness. Space. For the first time in a long time, there was space. I stayed with a friend that night. Didn't tell the full story. Just said the marriage was over. He didn't push. Sometimes people know when details won't help. I slept deeply. No tossing. No racing thoughts. Just stillness. The next morning, Elizabeth texted. Long messages. Angry ones. Then apologetic ones. Then confused ones. She said she didn't mean it like that. That she was emotional. That I misunderstood. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to clarify. Over the next week, the truth settled in. Not all betrayals come with shouting or slammed doors. Some come quietly, wrapped in familiarity, hidden behind routines. I realized I hadn't lost my marriage the day I found out about the affair. I'd lost the day respect left the room and never came back. At this point in the story, do you think silence is strength or avoidance? Share your perspective in the comments and explain why. Elizabeth eventually called, not to apologize, to negotiate. She asked if we could be civil, if we could talk things through. What she meant was comfort, stability, the safety net she assumed would always be there. I told her we'd speak through lawyers, calmly, clearly. That made her angry again. I didn't feel victorious. I felt done. There's a difference. Victory seeks validation. Being done doesn't need witnesses. Weeks later, I drove past the old house to pick up the last of my things. She wasn't home. The silence inside felt different now. Less heavy. I packed what mattered and left the rest. Objects lose meaning when the story attached to them ends. If this story resonates, consider sharing it with someone who might be standing at the edge of a similar decision. Sometimes clarity comes from seeing yourself in someone else's experience. People ask if I miss her. I miss who I thought she was. I miss the version of my life where loyalty was mutual and effort was respected. But I don't miss feeling small. I don't miss questioning my worth in my own home. The day I discovered her affair wasn't the worst day of my life. It was the most honest one. It stripped away illusions I'd been protecting out of habit and fear. One last question for you. What matters more in a relationship, loyalty, honesty, or effort? Comment your answer and explain your choice. If you found value in this story, like this video, leave your thoughts below, and subscribe for more real stories about respect, boundaries, and the moments that change everything.